Hello, this is Lindy. I am going to be telling you about this cookbook, Anna Jones' One Pot Pan Planet. A greener way to cook for you, your family, and the planet. There's Anna Jones. She is a British food writer, and she's been called the voice of modern vegetable cooking. I have read two of her previous books, A Modern Way to Eat and The Modern Cook's Year. And see the photographies by Issy Croker. I would say that the signature ingredients in this cookbook are citrus fruits, lemons, limes, clementines, and fresh herbs. Coriander, dill, parsley, mint, and thyme mostly. So the photographer obviously really likes texture. As you can see, the crinkled fabric background here, the texture of the lemon. There's lots of natural light, crumpled paper, food stains. And the central idea behind the cookbook, as you can tell by the title, is to prepare mostly one dish meals. Now, most of these are either vegan, or if they're vegetarian, there's a vegan alternative. And you can see the inspiration comes from all around the world. Muhammara chickpea stew, I think that is from Syria. Udon noodle soup in Asia. Risotto. More crinkles. If you look closely at some of these, you can even see stains on the fabric. So, very casual. And then interspersing the recipes, there are some chapters like this, Eating for Health. Protein question, which I was disappointed because Anna Jones perpetuates the myth of complete proteins. That the myth is that because vegetable protein doesn't contain all 9 amino acids that meat does, that therefore you need to combine different vegetable sources of protein in order to have complete protein. And that was disproved decades ago. Your body's very good at using amino acids and storing extra amino acids. So, not to worry about complete protein. Saving energy, saving money, no waste. Photographer likes natural light, shadows. Does make a very attractive cookbook, I think. Especially, I like the matte finish instead of glossy. Now, for the vegan alternative, her recipes like shakshuka, instead of putting eggs in, the suggestion is to put in firm tofu, which that's very different, but whatever. This green chickpea pancakes, I'm reminded of the Gujarati dish pudla, but this recipe has no spices in it. But I'm thankful that there's so many chickpea flour recipes in here, because for some reason I had stopped making chickpea crepes, and after reading this cookbook I'm back in the habit again. Now, this particular recipe uses oat milk with the chickpea flour, and I usually do mine with water. I tried them with coconut milk, and I thought they were pretty good. The frittata, so this is another example of substitution for vegans, is chickpea flour rather than the eggs to make the frittata. I think that works pretty well. You can tell that Anna Jones is not so much a media celebrity because there's only 2 pictures of her in here, aside from the author photograph. Pad thai. Now, courgette and halloumi fritters. So, there's stains on the tablecloth. I think you can probably even see that. But the halloumi, she recommends to get a vegan halloumi if you're vegan, or sometimes it's called Mediterranean style. I don't know. I've never seen such a thing, but this is a British cookbook, so I assume that you can get it there. Still, whenever cooked cheese is part of the texture of a dish, it seems like the vegan alternative is less than satisfactory. Oh, I've marked this one because I used her recipe for flatbreads, and it turned out very well. I did not make the sticky squash and pistachio filling to eat with the flatbreads, but many of the dishes in this cookbook she recommends serving with flatbreads or cooked rice. So there would be a separate dish or a separate pot cooking the rice. And the header for this recipe, mapo tofu, I was a little puzzled by the description of clean white tofu bathed in a slick of delicious chili and black beans. It's the clean part, clean white tofu bathed in. Like, isn't all the food clean? I don't know. I think she must be using clean in a different sense there, but I made it a bit mysterious. This green olive and herb Welsh cakes is one that intrigues me, and if I had olives in the house, I would have tried making it. Now in this chapter, One Veg, she gives general information about a particular veg, in this case broccoli, and then has 10 simple recipe ideas. It's kind of cool. You've got a pumpkin, not quite sure what to do with it. You know, you can just go directly here. And I did try one of these recipes. Carrots. A carrot soka. So soka is like a chickpea pancake. And in the description here, it's like there's a part missing, because she tells you to whisk the chickpea flour with milk again, vegan or cow's milk, but I don't know why she doesn't use water, but okay. Then cover, scrub and grate 2 carrots and stir into the batter. And then it goes right into heating a pan and cooking your batter. And this is where I feel like something is missing, because usually with chickpea flour, after you add the liquid, you let it sit for an hour and it hydrates the flour, or wheat flour too. Give it a chance to hydrate. And so I think that part is missing, because it seems like you go, like, why cover it if all you're going to do is scrub your carrots and then put them in? So small peculiarity. And I also made a note here that she does mention that tomato vines are edible. She's talking about the leaves here. They can be used in stocks and tomato soups. They're edible, add a lovely green verdant flavor. But she doesn't mention that you want to limit how many of them you eat. I mean, maybe that would occur to you anyway because they're a little bit bitter or strong flavored, but too many tomato leaves is not good for a person. I thought that could have been mentioned. The peppers. Yes, this recipe for bell peppers, actually nice stuffed peppers is what it's called. I think she's throwing some shade on stuffed peppers there. I think all stuffed peppers are good. Vegetarian ones anyway. Here's another planet chapter. So, supporting soil health, food miles, living with less plastic, and so on. And one of the things she talks about is, even though she is a vegetarian, she understands that for healthy soil, animals are part of the cycle, and just that we should be eating less meat. Here, she references B. Wilson's The Way We Eat Now, when she's talking about food trends. And there's somewhere else in this book also where she talks about B. Wilson's The Way We Eat Now. And I want to second that recommendation because I think that's a fabulous book. What we got here? Oh, talking about food miles. Yeah, and the carbon footprint. So it's been calculated that, tomatoes from Spain versus the UK, even though they have to travel further from Spain, it's got a smaller carbon footprint than in the UK the tomatoes are grown under polytunnels, because in Spain they're grown in the open sun. Apples, New Zealand apples versus UK apples, because when the UK apples are out of season, they're stored under refrigeration, and the amount of energy that takes is more than the amount of energy for apples to travel cargo across the ocean. Now, for soft fruits, like strawberries that have to be flown, that's a whole different story if they're traveling around the world. Even has a recipe here for making beeswax wraps in the section on how to live with less plastic. I make mine differently than she does because I include some pine resin in the beeswax. I guess this one would probably work. So for some of these recipes in the tray chapter, you need the kind of large frying pan that can go from stovetop into the oven. Recipes like this with yogurt and herbs. I just use a vegan yogurt. I enjoyed looking through these recipes. I didn't feel like I needed to try making many of them, but some of them I think would have appealed to me if it was winter time. Okay, here's one that I did make. Sticky sesame baked cauliflower. Yeah, that turned out great. Actually, I'll pop in a photo of my version of the cauliflower. Okay, this biryani with saffron and golden veg. So I counted how many times the recipe has you taking this out of the oven. You're going in and out, in and out, in and out. Minimum 8 times. This one is one of the more complex recipes that she has. And making something like that I definitely would be more attracted to doing this in the winter time when the heat from the oven is welcome in the house. Now the downside of these recipes, making them in the winter, is that fresh herbs are not so available. This baked feta with tomato and smoky peppers. Apparently you can get vegan feta, another thing that I haven't seen before. So she tells you to use 2 blocks of feta or vegan feta style cheese, and you cut each one into 5 slices. Now almost all of these recipes serve 4, and if you're cutting, so you're going to have 10 slices of feta for serving 4 people. I don't understand why she didn't cut it into 4 slices each. I do not know. She uses a lot of capers as well, and that made me want to go out and get a jar of capers, because it's been a while since I cooked with capers. And another thing that she uses fairly often is fennel seed as a flavoring. This chocolate, olive oil, and rosemary cake. The replacement for eggs in this cake, because it's one that uses 3 eggs. So if you're making it vegan, she's saying make it with 150 milliliters of sparkling water instead. And I have never tried such a thing as a replacement for eggs. Very curious about it. Chocolate and almond butter swirl brownies. These look good. The egg replacement in this one, I think, is flaxseed. Yes. So 2 eggs or 8 teaspoons of flaxseed, which she does direct you to soak the flaxseed in water. That's how I've used flaxseed before, but I've used ground flaxseed, or if it's whole, then I put it in the blender to grind it up once it's soaked. And she doesn't say whether to use whole flaxseed or ground here. Can't quite imagine just leaving them whole, but if any of you have experience with that, please let me know. Okay, so the header notes in this chocolate and muscovado fudge cake, and by the way, doesn't that look yummy? She says, my insatiable sweet tooth knows almost no bounds, so cake is something I take very seriously. This dense, gooey, and incidentally vegan chocolate cake made with coconut oil is as much of a hit with my 2-year-old as it is with my vegan brother. It was passed on to me by a kind American friend, hence oil rather than butter in the batter. And it's that last sentence that really puzzled me, that she got it from an American friend, hence oil rather than butter in the batter. But Americans use a lot of butter in their cakes, so I don't know. I'm not quite sure if she had meant to say from an American vegan friend, maybe. But anyway, I was just a little puzzled by that. The chocolate cake that I make most often is a vegan chocolate cake, and it's made with oil, no eggs, no need for flaxseed or anything like that. So imagine this is good. Some brown butter, double chip cookies. Yum. Honey almond and cardamom drizzle cake. Another one that sounds really good. A cherry and smoked salt clafouti. This is one of the few recipes in this book that doesn't have a vegan alternative. That puffed clafouti really gets its texture from eggs. So then there's a chapter on wasting less. She talks about cooking beans, and once again, there's a myth. How does she put it? I season my pulses once they are cooked, as seasoning them while cooking is said to toughen them. But it actually doesn't. You can put salt. Actually, it's preferable to put salt and other seasoning in at the start of cooking your dry beans, because the flavor goes into the beans then, and it does not toughen them. I cook dried beans all the time. The key though is not to boil them too hard. Just let them simmer, and a gentle simmer will get them soft all the way through. Now this section where you, like for the frittatas, for example, so you choose your base, whether it's going to be eggs or chickpea flour, and then different flavorings, different herbs, different spices. Put in a vegetable, maybe another vegetable, and a topping. So this mix and match kind of thing really reminds me of Samin Nosrat's, what is it called? Salt, fire, acid, heat, I think. She does the same thing with soups, pestos, and then that's it. Yeah. So those are some thoughts on One Pot Pan Planet. Let me know if you've cooked from this book, and if you have particular recipes that you recommend from it. I think I might take some photos of a few of these recipes before I return it to the library, so that when the weather gets cooler, I might, be more inclined to do some of those oven-baked ones. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.